This conference will now be recorded.
There it is up there on the board. So the newest permit was with Lafayette. So Jeremy, it's Veterans Memorial 52. And most everything else has been on there for a while, and some are progressing and some are not. But if you have questions, here I am.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the APC progress report. Beginning with the NPO update, and we have a number of items between Tim and Doug. So Tim, you have our first one, Safe Streets and Roads for All.
Yes. So this is something we kind of mentioned at last month's meeting that we would be looking at this month's meeting. And what that is our Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. Before we can get around to applying for funding, we do need to have this plan approved. So it's been kind of posted for a while, and I think everyone on the committee has had a chance to look it over if they would like to. And I know several of you participated at various points in the process of developing this and making sure that some of your concerns for your various agencies were addressed in this plan. Kind of briefly to go over some of what's in there. So it kind of starts with an introduction, which talks about some of the goals and some of the requirements of the federal program. Then we get into some safety analysis, looking specifically at some crash data, as well as a few other items that are required, such as the high injury network, which is something that we've presented at previous meetings. Then the plan talks about what we did for community engagement and some of the results of some surveys and such that we did to reach out to the public. And we have an analysis of how this combines with existing plans and policies. And then we get into some potential safety strategies and projects we could possibly apply for under this grant. And then finally, there are a few other implementation items to make sure that this is equitably implemented, as well as some of the other requirements are met. So kind of in general, one thing that I just want to remind us is that because this is a specific federal grant funding program, we did have several constraints with that, and that did kind of limit some of what we can do with this plan. And so unfortunately what that meant is that for some jurisdictions, it's just really not very realistic that we can get projects that meet the criteria for this grant. So that did kind of pigeonhole us a little bit. But again, it is, a federal requirement. So if we do want to access some of these monies, that is the only way we can access them. Other than that, I did want to kind of just really quickly highlight one or two things, if I can get that here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, this is some of the crash analysis that we performed. So our staff put in a lot of time combining with the consultant and coordinating on this. So we were pretty happy with how that went. So wanted to kind of point that out. And then additionally, we had what we think is some pretty good mapping. So this kind of really shows some of the density, and it's really pretty much what you would expect, again, in terms of most of our crashes really do happen in kind of the downtown / campus area. And then it kind of, there are some spots out farther in the county where there are some issues as well. Other than that, so this is some of the public outreach that was conducted. There were, I guess, booths or tables, whatever you might want to call this, at several public events, and those are listed here. And then finally, we do have some kind of safety strategies that are discussed. Again, this is one of the things that's really constrained by the funding requirements and the federal requirements for this project. So I do want to mention that we did not necessarily have free reign over that. So if you have maybe some technical questions as to why we made some of those decisions, that is the very short answer. So other than that, I would take any questions at this time. I'm not seeing any questions. Okay. So then what? Oh,
Tim,
no.
one quick question.
Sure.
As far as next steps and or moving forward for additional grant money for actual projects, do you have a timeline maybe?
Yes. So basically, we just need to make sure that we get an application in whenever the next application window is, and they haven't even announced like a NOFO or anything for that. So we would be waiting on that to officially get the application process started. We are going to want to have some internal coordination with our local jurisdictions as to what we're going to apply for, and we're going to probably want to start gathering data and stuff so we can be prepared for that. But
So you have to wait for a NOFO to go for project.
mhm.
But when does this go in and get approved?
Right. So as far as this plan getting approved, if everyone is okay with what we've done, then we would approve it or recommend approval today, and then that will go to the policy board next month for their official approval.
Does Federal Highway send it to them and get approved so you qualify for?
It's like a self-certification. So we would have to verify that we do have an approved action plan, and we did double check that with the consultant against the requirements before we put this draft up for review, and it does meet all those requirements.
They don't have
Are there any further questions? So I believe we need a motion for this committee to recommend the plan.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Send this to the policy board.
Thank you.
What he said.
So it's been moved and seconded. We will send this action plan forward to the policy board. Any further questions? No? Proceed with the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you. So now, Doug, you're up for a number of items here, starting with the South Street Road Safety Audit.
Good afternoon, thank you. Well, this is a very exciting time. I've been looking forward to doing this for a while, and that, as many of you know, again, thank you for participation in this, that we have completed the road safety audit for South Street, specifically looking at South Street between Sagamore Parkway and I-65. Within that stretch, there are 12 signalized intersections, 3 unsignalized intersections, and 13 driveways. So over a 5.5-year period, there was 1,914 crashes. There were 389 persons injured, and then another 406 that were incapacitated injuries, and 2 fatalities. So basically, what we looked at were the issues along this corridor, and it was a fairly long and extensive process. The most interesting time and part of it was the actual walkthrough when we walked the entire corridor and looked at all of the issues and what's actually out there, and then afterwards came together and then discussed our observations and then also our recommendations. The report you see here is actually available on the front page of a APC webpage. And in the beginning or towards the front, if you could scroll a little bit, we have a lot of basic information about the corridor. For example, we give dates in terms of when different portions of South Street was relinquished. We have a discussion on the existing conditions. We also have, and there you see the entire corridor, what we looked at. One of the most heavily congested corridors within the area. We looked at a number of different things, and in the report we have basically distances between the intersections. We also have traffic count information. We have sidewalk and trail information. We also include bus stop and bus route information. We also have maps and indicate where street lights currently exist. We talk about land use in the corridor. We have a hotspot map showing as you see here, you see a dead bullseye right there on Creasy Lane, which should be no surprise. And then after that, we start rolling out the overall crash data, and there is a lot of it, broken down by a lot of different categories, looked at about any way you could think of. And then following that, we started actually looking at the crashes by intersection and then outside of the intersection. And for the intersection, we looked at crashes within 250 feet. Specifically for each intersection, we had a lot of detail regarding the geometrics for each leg going into the intersection. We had an aerial photo of it. We also had the crash diagram. And then the crash data. So if you had a specific question regarding each intersection, you could just go to it immediately and just look at that data. And then we also had a summary of our first meeting, which basic discussion of the corridor, and then also have some information regarding our field observations. And then the analysis we did for the end barriers and what we found in terms of those crashes occurring mostly when it's dark and then especially when it's raining as well. But the most important part is at the very end, and that is where we have the recommendations. It's basically a buffet of different recommendations. We have it broken down by, for example, on this page, street lighting, our observations, and then proposed solutions, signage, pavement markings. So we started looking at the individual parts of it and then targeted, not only what were the observations, but then also the recommendations or proposed solutions. And that we did that for a number of different things. There's 11 pages of it. So there's a lot of proposed solutions that the audit team provided, and they're all listed in there. So when Jeremy would like to do a massive reconstruction safety project, we have all of the information there to support that. So it's a big project, one that, I'm excited that, I'm here today to tell you about it. So are there any comments or questions?
I just want to say thank you, Doug, and anybody who put in time at the MPO, because there was a lot of work that went into this, and everybody also who was on the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. The next item I'm just going to quickly cover is a trail plan for the town of Battleground. the battleground or the town applied for funding from the Indiana Department of Health to develop a trail plan. It's kind of interesting, yes, the Indiana Department of Health actually provides funding to do stuff like this. And it's so far been a very interesting project. We're on the very early stages of this development. In that last Thursday was the first public open house and had a lot of information available to people who wanted to come in. And we did have town members actually come in, stop by, and talk to us and provided some information. And then also, concurrently going on right now, there is a survey regarding the trail plan and basically asking for information. Because, you know, when all's said and done, what we'd like to do is then take this plan and roll it into our long-range plan and eventually use federal funds for these proposed improvements. So just wanted to give everybody an update on that. Any questions or comments?
Doug, I'm curious, would the battleground trails connect with Lafayette trails? Is there some way to connect there? I don't know if that's.
That's one thing that we are in hopes of, but eventually, yes. And not only connect to Lafayette and West Lafayette, but then actually further to the northeast in Delphi. I see that being another good connection. Any other comments or questions? Okay, going on. I don't have any handouts for this, but the title is Unfunded Project Lists. There is a pursuit going on right now, and the MPOs around the state are a part of it in that we are looking to give information to the state legislatures and requesting more funding for local projects. We've done this in the past, and in the past, I think it was somewhat to like 2012 or something when we did this, we were actually successful and did receive additional funding for local projects. So we thought this would be a good effort to do again. We are starting to put together the unfunded list. Right now, we are looking at the projects in the long range or metropolitan transportation plan and have that. Once we get that tweaked here, probably in the next day or two or so, we'll be sending that out for any additional projects you'd like to add on that. But basically what we're doing is trying to compose a list of projects that if we had the additional funds we could do. And then besides the project, an estimated cost to construct it. So an effort that is going on that we wanted to bring everyone up to date on. And it's a quick turnaround. We have to turn this information back to basically the MPO Council by the end of the month. So we'll be sending that request out here fairly shortly. The next thing.
Sorry, one thing on that, Doug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, first of all, everything Doug said is absolutely correct. But I kind of just want to emphasize the importance of this and mention that, you know, if you even think there's a remote chance that you have a project that would be eligible for funding, like if there's a doubt, just put it in the list. I think it's better to be aggressive with this and demonstrate, you know, what the real needs are as opposed to trying to, I don't know, skimp on that. Because again, we're trying to show as all the MPOs, like what our deficit really is of the needs compared to the actual funding we have. So the more projects we can get into this and show that our needs, the better chance I think we have of ultimately having the state legislature find some more funding mechanisms. So please, when you get the email from Doug, be aggressive with your lists that you send back to him.
Or just question for the whole plan.
Mm-hmm.
So the MPOs are putting this together, and I know the county association and the commissioners and county engineers association are their legislative committees they're doing kind of the same thing. Do you envision this as at hearings different presentations, like the MPOs, and then the Association of Counties would represent all the unaffiliated, and there would be a little overlap there, obviously.
Yeah, I visioned something similar to that, like what happened the last time, in that a number of different groups, such as the commissioners, counties, towns, and cities, did present this information to the state legislature committees and started showing what the actual need is. If additional funds were available, we could do these projects. And, you know, so far, we do have a significant list and a significant amount of money. And we are actually, like we did last time, including NDOT projects as well, because they want the whole entire picture. So, that answer your question, Stu?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's going to be a meeting, like with the MPOs and ACI and IACC, you know, get together to say, these are the drums we want to beat?
I do not have that answer. I don't know. I was just directed to put the list together.
But I mean, the last time, was there coordination
Yes, there was.
between before that? Okay. I just know it seems like everybody's trying to aim at that.
Yeah, and I know from the MPOs and Dan Avery, who's the executive director up in Fort Wayne, who's been around there a long time, and who was one of the key figures in the last time we did this, is kind of heading it up from the MPO end as the point person. So he's very experienced with this kind of thing. So I'm sure, as appropriate, he'll be asking for more information.
From the other associations. Yeah. They know like Elkhart's doing a lot, but they're pretty sophisticated in their data and presentation. Making sure I know at the hearings they had last year, it seemed like a mishmash of everybody going up. And it didn't. That's the only hearing like that I've ever been to, and it didn't seem like it was here, there, and everywhere, and everybody had agendas that were, it didn't, if I were sitting up there, I wouldn't get a clear message.
Well, I think with the MPOs working together and putting together a list for the entire state, with all of the regions, that would definitely show a more comprehensive picture of just the individual groups. Any other questions or comments? Good jokes? Going on, next thing I have to present are our monthly federal funding reports. This will be the last one for fiscal year 2024. With July 1st already passed, we are now actually in state fiscal year 25. So this is basically a summary of 24. And as I've reported earlier, all of our money that we have originally allocated for 24 has been obligated. The additional funding we have received earlier this year, we are working on obligating those funds. The funds that we basically flexed over to City Bus through the Federal Transit Administration. The good news that we have done that. The official request from NDOT, from FHWA to FTA did occur, and we are good to go with that. Those funds are allocated. And we are in the process of obligating the last two amounts, one for Soldiers Home Road and the other amount for South 9th Street. Going on to the next one. This is for, of course, fiscal year 2025. Nothing has been obligated, of course, since we're brand new in this. At the very bottom, we are still going to track the new 24 funds to make sure we give you that information and make sure when they are obligated, we will tell you. The one thing I would like to mention is highlighted in yellow or orange or whatever color you see, depending on if you look at a monitor or screen or whatnot, is that under the HSIP funding, We have not allocated all of those funds. There is $578,733 available. Now, part of that we can flex over to STBG funds, but I just wanted to mention that at this point, those funds are open and available for safety projects in specific. And if any other project needs a pinch of funds, we probably can flex them over. We are allowed to flex half of the HSIP funds from the safety aspect to STBG funding. So I just wanted to highlight that point.
Question?
Yes.
So there's this 24 HSIP funding.
Mm-hmm.
You just had the safety audit for South.
Mm-hmm.
Is this money available for plan development, for studies?
For studies?
Using that safety audit to
Mhm.
develop an HIP project?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you probably have to create a DES, right?
Well, the first thing we do is we would put a proposal together, and then that proposal would be sent to the NDOT Federal Highway Safety Committee, and then that committee would then give it a thumbs up or thumbs down in terms of moving it forward. If they didn't feel that it was met the criteria of using safety funds, then they would not approve it. But that is a good question in terms of actually putting one of those together.
Just wondering the timing of the thing. I mean, you could obviously do an RFP for developing, a project study,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
building off the safety audit, and you could burn through 500,000 pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know if it would qualify if you didn't have a fairly broad where you're doing the conceptual study.
We can follow up on that and ask. I don't know when Mike Holloway, the gentleman who's over the safety program, if he's retired yet. But if not, ask him or the person that more likely will replace him, Taylor. But we can ask both of them, and then we can get back.
Yeah, because I can't think of anything else that would qualify right now. I mean, we've got the safety study for Harrison, but we've already done the studies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? And the last item I have is the 18-month letting list. There's actually pretty much nothing to report. All of the projects listed, except for two, basically are on track for the scheduled letting date. The next two coming up are in October. One at State Road 26 and McCarty Lane, new signal installation. And then on US 52, Bridge Deck Overlay Project. Still excited to see, at least for me, the State Road 225 Truss Reconstruction Repair Project, still on schedule for a November bid letting. The two new projects are project number 9, an NDOT project, raised pavement markings refurbishing. And then the last project is the traffic signal emergency vehicle preemption project, and that's our local project. So otherwise, nothing really to report. Any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. So we're now at the point of our agenda where we entertain other business that anyone has to bring to the committee. There appearing to be none. The next item is citizen comments. We make a space for that. There appear to be none. The last item on the agenda then, that is my entertaining a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I declare this meeting adjourned. The next meeting will be August 21st.